Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled and excited to have you at another webinar training with the one and only Debbie De Grote from Forward Coaching. Debbie, welcome. So grateful that you're here with us again today.
Absolutely. And I know we're going to talk about how to dominate a geographic farm. What's cool about this is as we head into a new market of the future, we're going to start to see potentially more listings, more turnover, especially if rates, Sean, go down as Ben Kinney is predicting that they will next year, that some of the people that have been sitting on the fence wanting to make those moves up will finally say, this is probably about as good as it is going to get. So we're going to do it. And the reason I bring that up is the last couple of years with low inventory have not been the best time to become a geographic farmer, right? Because there wasn't as much opportunity. But the great thing about this is that many people then left geographic farming.
Yep.
And so that leaves more territories wide open. And you know, when I started in real estate, my broker did something. He said, okay, I want you to get in the car. I want you to go with me. And we drove to a neighborhood. And as we drove around that neighborhood, he had all kinds of signs with his name on it all over that neighborhood. And he said, this is my geographic farm. Now, he happened to be a door knocker, and some of you here might say, well, I would never door knock, but he was a door knocker. So he said, get out of the car, follow me. And he had his farm cards, a card for each house, and he knocked on each door and he talked to the people. A real estate update, a monthly theme. He asked what were their real estate related plans, and they knew him, right? And I'm like, wow, this looks so easy. Because really what he had developed, Sean, was a geographic sphere of influence.
Absolutely.
Right? So we're going to talk about geographic farming, but of course, there are other types of farming that you could choose to do. You could farm a group of absentee owners, as an example, gather a group together, target a particular, segment of the market, and repetitively, when you think about farming, it's like, they call it that because you find the piece of ground, or in our case, the group that you want to work, and you prepare the soil. So you're prospecting, you're reaching out, you're marketing to them, and tending that over time, and it yields a crop of listings. So, Sean, it could be a physical community, it could be absentee owners, it could be investors, right? So it could be lots of different types of groups. So if you think of farming as identifying a focus group within your predetermined area or ideal situation. And Sean, I think there's a lot of tools inside of Landvoice that could really help them with each of these categories, right?
Debbie, so many tools and so many different use cases. You just outlined quite a few ways that we can farm. And at Landvoice, we love to enable this type of farming. So in our what we call our neighborhood search tool, you can simply click neighborhood search. It pulls up a map and you can draw a little area around specific neighborhoods. And then it's going to take a second. It's going to find all the names, basically the homeowner names with the addresses, and it'll take a few more seconds. It'll find you phone numbers and emails. And the use cases for that type of information, you can start building little geo pockets or little farms, geo farms, right? And we love it for a lot of reasons. Door knocking is perfect, but sending postcards or mailers to this farm or this neighborhood, you can do that through the Landvoice tool. Download the CSV, print the labels, and stamp those on all of your postcards. But also, we love this. Anytime you do a just listed or a just sold, you want to tell all the neighbors about those properties. And what I love it for also, Debbie, is open houses. If we have an open house this weekend, we should be talking to all the neighbors of, hey, open house from 10 to 2, but we're going to open it up to all the local neighbors, you specifically between 9 and 10, and make some type of exclusive opportunity for those local neighbors who've always wanted to upgrade or downsize or wanted a pool but didn't want to leave the neighborhood. These are huge opportunities for geofarming. And then one last use case, Debbie, we're working with the Brivity team they can use this type of data when you pull this type of information with a geofarm. They can actually do social media ads to everyone in that farm now with this information that or the data that Landvoice provides. So huge use cases. I know we're going to talk about some of these in the slides, but I want to bring that up to everybody's attention. And Landvoice can definitely provide all that data to help you grow those farms.
And so how did they find out more about that if they're not already using Landvoice?
Yeah, it's a great question. Just go to landvoice.com and you can literally fill out your information. We'll have someone contact you or call directly at 888-678-0905. It's typically about $40 a month, or you can bundle that with your expireds and your FSBOs and your pre-foreclosures and get really good deals on pricing and data there as well.
Okay, but they could walk them through and show them samples of all of
Absolutely.
these, right?
Walk them through all of
Yeah.
it. Yep.
And for farming to work, once you choose your category or your area, the key is systematically work it over a long period of time. Now, I have heard people over the years say, well, if you take on a geographic farm, you have to expect it'll take a couple of years. Well, Sean, it could mean that it would take a couple of years to dominate, but I would never want you guys going into a project like this thinking, I'm going to take a couple of years to get a payday. So to Sean's point, what my broker encouraged me to do when I launched my geographic farm, he said, first thing I want you to do, go after any for sale by owners that are inside that geo farm, because we already know they want to sell, and try to get them listed. That's an easy way to break into that market. Then Sean, he also told me, make sure that you're absolutely on top of any expired or canceled that occur in that farm, because again, great opportunity to launch. And actually that is what happened. My first 2 listings in my geo farm, one was an expired, one was an older expired, because he also suggested that I go back and research and find the older expireds that still lived in the area. But of course, there was no tech tools like Landvoice. So it was a nightmare to do all of that research, but that was where I got my first couple of listings. And then also to Sean's point, when you sell a listing, marketing, hey, we had this on the market, 3 offers, 2 leftover buyers that are interested in purchasing in the community. So if you're thinking about selling your home, they might be a good match. Contact me to find out. And they're willing to let you move when you choose, potentially buy as is. And then, of course, the sneak preview for the neighbors. One of our coaching clients does a bubbles and brunch before each farm listing, 10 to 12, bagels and mimosas and coffee, and then closes it at 12, and at 1 o'clock does her public open house, right?
Gosh, I love that.
Yeah, so you'd research, potentially 3 to 4 areas. So today we're going to talk about the actual physical geographic farm. So you'd want to look at 3 to 4 areas and do your research, because you could have an area that you love, or maybe an area that you live in, but some farms don't turn over. Like, I can think of a couple of areas here near me where they pass it down to the family members. Yes, they're fabulous areas. Yes, people would like to live there. But historically, I'm not talking about just the last couple of years of our low inventory. Historically, those areas don't produce very many transactions. So they may be beautiful, but they don't turn over. So you want to do your research looking for that historical turnover, taking a minute, knowing that the last couple of years were not normal, but what has occurred in that area historically, right? And then, Sean, we also want to look at the competition. Now, when I went into my farm, there was a lady, I still remember her name. She actually has passed away many years ago, but her name was Sylvia Wilder. And I remember there were her signs in the neighborhood. And I guess, quite frankly, I wasn't actually smart enough to think that I should be thinking about who is my competitor and how do I beat her. But what happened is I was willing to door knock that farm every month. And I aggressively started doing the postcard mailings. And then I would work open houses aggressively. She had just been getting the ones she got because she had no competition and she lived in the area. Well, it did not take me long to beat her. But see, here's the thing. She wasn't a fierce competitor. So you want to check out and say, wow, if this competitor is really entrenched, they have massive market share, they have strong ties in the community, and they have a very big budget and a strategic machine. It could be that as I try to break in, they just apply more fuel to the fire. So in some cases, you might be better off to say, well, that neighborhood is dominated by someone so strong. I think I'll go to the neighborhood next door because in my research, by looking in the MLS, seeing who sold houses, I can tell that nobody dominates that area. So it's not that I'm saying they couldn't beat a strong competitor, but there are times where it just doesn't make sense, right? Because what you've got to think about is if I have competition in the area, I have to be prepared to do more than they do and to do it better. So if they have a massive budget and I don't, then I'm going to have to be more in front of those people, door knocking, community events, events at the school that's local. I'm going to have to do more in that sense, right? Or I got to go choose a farm that's not so competitive.
Debbie, it's incredible advice to everybody out there. My one question for you is when they're doing that research in the MLS, should they go back and look the last 6 months, the last 12 months, last 24 months? What's your recommendations there?
Usually I would say the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Just to see, because like my husband is a geographic farmer in an area near the office here. And if you went into that area over a period of years, because he's farmed there for 30 years, you'd see Don De Grote, Don De Grote, Don De Grote, Don De Grote, right? You'd go, oh, I think Don's, entrenched here a bit. But here's the interesting thing. It used to be possible in a farm to get 80% of the listings that were occurring. I don't really see that anymore. And I think it's because now they have so many opportunities to get distracted away from you, right? By going online and checking properties on Zillow. So a strong farmer, if you said, what's a good target for me, would probably be to dominate 30% of that market. That would be a good goal, right? So to get that first traction, run old expireds, cancels, check for sale by owners, stay on top of those fresh expireds, get in front of them quickly, and then create your marketing plan and your calendar. How am I going to approach it? How many postcards a year am I going to do? Many of our clients do the community connection events. In fact, we even provide those for them at Forward, so they have an easy way to do a photo in the park or a shredding event or a garage sale event. So you'd want to lay all of that out. Then you want to figure out your budget, because once you have your ideal plan and you know how much money you have to spend, Sean, that's really going to dictate the number of doors that you can afford to do. So you'd be better off to start a little smaller with 500, for example. Do it well. Get some traction, make some money. You can always add more. But if you start with 5,000 and you have not enough money to do it systematically to where they gain some recognition of you, then you could just be potentially wasting money.
I love
Right.
that.
So the
Yeah.
size of the farm dictated by your budget. Now, by the way, Sean, when we're talking about community events, find sponsors. So of course, your postcards, you need to pay for those, although some lenders are willing to co-brand if they know you're a good farmer.
Yep.
They'll co-brand, logo, if you will, and they'll split the cost. Some lenders will. But you can find an insurance sponsor, a contractor, a plumber, whoever you want that would like to get to know the homeowners in that area. And if you do those connection events, your goal is to get them 100% paid for, right, by sponsors.
So good. Yep, absolutely. Title companies as well. Look to them to partner.
Yep. So pros and cons of farming in your own area. This is totally a personal choice. I never did it. I never farmed in my own area because I worked a lot. And the last thing I wanted to do on my day off, if I was planting flowers in my front yard in sweats, in a baseball cap, was have a neighbor come by. And that might have been dumb, not to do my area because it is convenient, it is easy. But you see, the thing was, at the time, I didn't have kids. And so with my husband and I being young and newly married, we didn't hang out in the neighborhood. We weren't socially connected. We didn't have kids going to the schools and having play dates in the community. So it didn't really matter. And I just decided I preferred to have the farm somewhere else. But if you do have kids or really great ties in the community or a country club or you're a golfer, hey, leverage the power of that. So the good thing, you may know people there. It's easy. It's close by. The bad thing is you're kind of always on duty, right? So you just have to decide if you're okay with that. And you can mail or door knock or both. And some people door knock so they can door drop and save the cost of postage. I always did both. I would leave a door hanger or something simple, but then I would mail my postcards. Direct mail is still alive and well. Now, in December, I often did not send a farm mail piece after the first week of December because we know what happens, right? We're all getting home and our mailbox is crowded with catalogs and junk mail and Christmas cards, right?
Yep.
So I always backed off in the later part of December. And then if you're in markets that are very seasonal, you might even want to adjust your postcard frequency to match the seasonality of your market. Spend a little bit more in the hot times of year, a little bit less when it's not as productive. And of course, the Every Door Direct EDDM, which is through the post office, it is the cheapest way to mail. If you're not familiar with it, just Google it. You can get that explanation, talk to your post office. It's basically based on the carrier route. So as you're choosing your farm, if you could do your research and say, where is the carrier route, where the postal person goes, then that's my farm boundary. Because if my farm boundary is here, but I'm doing EDDM, then maybe that route's like that, right? Doesn't cover it all. And it's the cheapest way, even cheaper than bulk mail. Okay. But
Debbie, I've been in real estate for 20 years and never even thought about that. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. That's a phenomenal tip.
yeah, it's, sure, it's nice to mail first class, but so expensive. So
Yep.
bulk mail if you have to, but the EDDM is the cheapest. So to fast track progress, think, how do I connect? Door knocking for me was the thing. I door knocked every day for an hour and a half, which would cover about 75 doors because they were standard size lots. I counted out 75 pieces. When I finished knocking, I knew because I was down to my last piece. Some of you will never do that, or there are areas that will not allow it, right? So in that case, if you can get phone numbers and you can call those homeowners in lieu of door knocking, that's an option. If you cannot get phone numbers or that calling is not something you're going to do, in addition to your mail marketing, that's when you would then want to lean also into those community connection events. And then, of course, making open house a community event. So just think, the more ways I'm able to connect with these people, the more control of that farm I'm ultimately going to have. So that's why door knocking is a great one. Making open house an event, give them a reason to come. Food, market updates, come and pick up a brochure on, what's happening with interest rates, whatever is exciting that you can provide. And then here's some samples of some of the community connection event ideas. So often the agents use the wine and cheese as an evening happy hour to launch a new property. And then they don't do it, right before the open house. So just some ideas, but remember, sponsors. Now, local, if it's near a school or a farmer's market, any way you can be visible. One of the top farmers here in Newport Beach, Casey Lesher, he has a farm in Corona del Mar, and there's a great little farmer's market that is mostly attended by the locals because it's not a huge farmer's market. So Casey or someone from his team is there every Saturday morning. They have farmers market bags with his logo. They greet people, they hand out the bags. And whenever I go to that farmer's market, I see a group of neighbors surrounding Casey talking to him. But it doesn't cost a penny to be at the farmer's market, just those pretty affordable bags that he's handing out. So here's a common dilemma. You're a fabulous geographic farmer. You're selling all kinds of things in the neighborhood. But then the neighbors start to think, this is the only place that Debbie works. And that's why we want to be sure to let them know, all the areas and all the price points that you serve. Because once they like you and get to know you, you see there's lots of ways to make money in the farm. Making money by listing the property and it sells. Making money by double ending that sale. Making money by holding open houses and picking up other buyers and sellers, and making money when those neighbors need to move out or up, assisting them in that, which is why they need to know that you can get them where they want to be. Actually have my husband put a slogan on his postcards, licensed in the state of California. Now, granted, he's not trying to serve all of California, just easier to say it that way. Licensed in the state of California, selling everything from condo to mansion, whether you're moving across the street, across town, or across the country, I can get you where you want to be. Call me first. And then he actually says that to them, right?
Yeah, but that's another really good point. I can't tell you how many real estate agents kind of get locked in a certain price point because their
Right.
branding is so good. And it's important to remind everyone that we're servicing condo to mansion. I love that. Whether it's luxury or the condominium area, we want to serve all of our customers.
And of course, our goal is to turn each listing into an additional opportunity that really helps you get a great return on your investment. So if you're holding open houses or work those open house leads, inviting those neighbors in, looking into your database of friends and family and saying, who should come to this open house? Who should buy it? So we really want to make sure that there's tremendous profit. So Sean, if they're at a point where they want to be more strategic in the future and they need a coach to help them figure all these things out, study the competition, study the market, absolutely have coaches that can help them do that. They just need to scan that QR code. We'll get connected for a strategy call. But what I'd encourage them to do is do this math. Find an area that they're interested in. You can run the data in the MLS. Some of you have strong title companies and title reps in your state that can actually help you research that data. Look at how many homes have sold. So let's say in this area of 1,000, there were 50 homes sold. Then I say, well, what's 30% of that, right? If I could capture 30%, and then I multiply that by the average price of the house in the community, and then I multiply that by my average rate of commission, that shows me the potential profit. And Sean, it's usually pretty darn substantial.
The power of a farm, right, Debbie?
Right.
Yeah, are there. Guys, on these calls, Debbie's given a lot of tips and tricks, oftentimes at 30,000 feet, 20,000 feet. I highly recommend that you give their team an opportunity to show you how when they get in the weeds with you in the details of your business and how they can continue to help you grow. Appreciate all the time that you spend with us, Debbie,
Of
because it's a
course.
phenomenal opportunity to help each agent grow in their business.
Well, good luck. When I went, last quick thought, when I first went to work in that real estate office, my broker had not yet taken me out and shown me his area. And I saw this little statue someone had made like a craft,
Sure.
and it was a guy holding a sign, and they had painted on the sign, "You got a farm, it won't do you any harm, and it might even give you a charm." And I remember seeing that going, I don't understand. What are they talking about? Until my broker took me out to that neighborhood and I counted 12 signs with his name on it. And I'm like, okay, this is for me. All right, guys, have a great day.
Appreciate you, Debbie.